Hello, Footizens. Welcome to a brand new episode of Fcast. Once again, I am Mayuk, and with me, I've got Orko. Hello, Orko.
Hi.
Today in this episode, this is going to be a very special one. We all this while we had been discussing about the players who just made this game so beautiful, in which we are going to actually talk about some of the teachers of the game, the managers, the bosses who rule the game. As we all know, football is a game of tactics and strategies, and mind games and all other things are very to the integral to the way the game runs. So in this episodes, we are going to. So Orko, if you could just give a brief about how this episodes will be like.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mayuk. And thank you to all the listeners of our podcast. You have been great, guys. Hang in there with us. We'll come up with better episodes every time. And like today, we are with the episode of the teachers of football, those who have taught us a lot about the game, the various perspectives of it. And it's not about just being in the game and letting out your best starting 11 to play the game. It's also about reading the game and also making tactical decisions and standing out from the crowd. And those managers who have stood out in the crowd have made us fall in love with the game even much more. And so today we have with us, Mayuk will introduce a very ardent supporter of Arsenal, a Gunner fan, and Mayuk.
Absolutely. So today with us we have got all the way from Houston, Texas is joining us, Sushreyo Misra, who happens to be a Kolkata guy. Just like everyone, he's a huge fan of football. And today he's joining, so let me welcome him first. Hello, Sushreyo.
Hi Moyuk, hi Orko. Thank you guys for calling me. It's an
Welcome,
honor to
Sushil.
join this podcast.
No, it's an absolute pleasure that you have joined us, managing your busy schedule. And also, let me just introduce Sushreyo a bit. Just like I said, he's born and brought up in Calcutta. He has studied from the South Point School, and then he had joined Jadavpur University, and then he went on to join another prestigious educational institute, that is IIT Roorkee. So from there now he has just completed his PhD from Rice University, and he's based in Houston, Texas. So thank you so much once again, and hope this episode is going to be a blast.
Thank you, Moyuk. I think most of all, my identity today is that of a football fan, like all of us. And I'm really excited at the work that you guys are doing, and I'm very pumped about joining this episode. And let's hope this will be fun.
So, welcome again, and thanks for keeping our podcast international for the second time running. And to start with, I'll ask you the simple question that we ask to every guest that has come over to our podcast. What was your beautiful game moment?
Uh, well, my beautiful game moment would probably be two. First was the 1998 World Cup final. The 1998 World Cup was the first football World Cup that I watched, fully knowing and understanding what is going on. And then immediately after that, in the 99-2000 season, there was a game between Arsenal and Manchester United in which I saw Thierry Henry score a goal from a volley outside the box. It's a very famous goal. It is often shown among the best goals ever scored in the English Premier League. And that is the moment that actually made me an Arsenal supporter for life, which I am till today.
And if I'm not wrong, I guess both of us watched that match together. So we were at our maternals, and that goal, I was supporting United, and you were supporting Arsenal. So this goal just happened, and you became ecstatic about it. So I still remember the scenes.
Exactly. And these are some of those moments that really stay with you for your lifetime. And these are the moments which make the game beautiful and which make us fans of this beautiful game.
Absolutely.
So
So
this is the best thing about it. I mean, you two guys are doing a podcast probably 20 years down the line, and you are sharing a memory that the moment that you had shared, and that is the moment that you fell in love with football. It's amazing, right?
and and,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and that is the thing that is so special about the game, that even you remember the surroundings and everything even after 20 years. So this is what makes the game so beautiful. So coming on to the next, I just want to know because as we all know, Arsenal is a team which has a huge fan base all around the world. So I just want to know, rightly as you said that was your beautiful game moment. I would also like to know. See, that is the moment you fell in love. But what was the high point? So what was your Gunners moment? That high point. That yeah, this is the moment, and I am proud of the club which I have been following since childhood. So when was that for you?
Well, that would be an easy question to answer for me because I think if you ask this question to any Gunners fan, they would probably refer to the 2003-4 season. So the 2003-4 season is also known as the season in which Arsenal were termed as the Invincibles. Now, by Invincibles, we are referring to the fact that Arsenal did not lose a single game in the entire English Premier League season, which is an almost unprecedented feat. It happened after about 100 years in football. The last team to achieve that was uh, Nottingham Forest,
Right, right. It
and
was Nottingham Forest.
yeah, so that was like a remarkable achievement, and uh, probably the high point in the manager Arsene Wenger's career. So that would definitely be my high point as an Arsenal fan. But apart from that, also I would say uh, the 2005-6 season when Arsenal reached the finals of the Champions League. I think we played some beautiful football throughout that Champions League season. And in the one game that I remember in particular was our victory against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu Stadium, which is something that a lot of us were not expecting. And it was a victory that was brought about by mostly team game and the brilliance of Thierry Henry at the forward line. So those are the two high points of being an Arsenal supporter for me personally.
Absolutely. So it's a fact that when you talk about Arsenal, you just can't help but you have to talk about one man, Arsene Wenger. And I just want to ask you one silly thing: are you also one of those who believe that Arsenal, the club, has been named after Mr. Arsene Wenger? Because I used to believe that in my childhood.
Yeah,
We all do.
absolutely. I think that is one of the most sort of common
Fascinating
urban
thing.
legends. Yeah, in football, I think a lot of us used to believe that Arsene Wenger, the name of Arsenal was derived from Arsene Wenger. But I think it kind of shows how Arsene Wenger as a manager became synonymous with the club after a certain point in time. He was really the manager who made Arsenal uh, from a English Premier League. I wouldn't say a top team, but kind of a mid-table team who used to win not too frequently into a European giant, really. So they really put Arsenal on the global map. So I think if 100 years down the line people start believing that Arsenal derived its name from Arsene Wenger, it wouldn't be very sort of unfair on the legacy of this great manager.
Definitely. Why don't you take us through his philosophy and through his way of playing football that you must be so well versed with?
Yeah, so the Arsenal style of football, as it was popularly called, was all about sort of strong technique, quick attacking movements, not holding the ball for too long, and it's a style of football that Arsene Wenger introduced into England, because previously, if we follow English football in the 90s, mostly it used to be known for a very physical style of play with long passes, and it is a style of play that you would not normally see outside of England. So in a way, one you could say that Arsene Wenger really brought an international flavor into the style of English football, which later on a lot of other teams had imbibed. And right now, of course, we are seeing that football has become the style of football has become very universal. A lot of teams around the world are going after a very universal style of football and not retaining any particular flavor. So in a way, I think Wenger was a man maybe 20 years ahead of his time. Uh, so a lot of this style that Wenger introduced into Arsenal was actually influenced by his upbringing. So Wenger, I don't know if you guys know, but Wenger was born in a village which is located on the border of France and Germany. It's called Strasbourg,
Right.
and he grew up in a place called Dutlenheim. Now, Dutlenheim, the name itself sounds very German, but interestingly, it is located in France, just about 20 kilometers from the border of Germany. So, as a child, he would often travel with his father into Germany to watch the games from the Bundesliga. And his earliest football influences were the Borussia Mönchengladbach team of the 1970s, which used to be a champion team, and also Ajax from Netherlands, who used to play the total football as we know it today under the manager Rinus Michels. So these were the major influences in Arsene Wenger's early football education. And later on, when he became the manager, I think we see a little bit of this flavor in his style of managerial sort of leadership.
Absolutely. The French Revolution in English football, as we might say it, he brought art into football. I feel football was more fluid after the generation of Arsene Wenger's and Sir Alex Ferguson. Isn't it, Mayuk?
Absolutely, and just to add, as a United supporter, I have no problem in admitting. So Arsene Wenger was the first man to come and challenge that Manchester United side, and United was really flying high those days, and suddenly a man came with a similar kind of attire which the United manager normally dons. So suddenly there was some challenge, and in a United versus Arsenal match in somewhere around early 2000 or 2001, I saw the Arsenal team had such a change in their body language that they were actually making United to make mistakes. So that is the time when I saw that United were running out of options against one particular team for a couple of matches. So that was the effect of Arsene Wenger, according to me, I feel.
The French art mixed with the German grit, as he mentioned, that he was born in the border of Germany, and his footballing philosophy was much influenced by the German footballing league. So that is probably an explanation. And the demeanor you spoke about, his attire, a suited man standing on the touch line, shouting instructions very less frequently. I mean, he hardly shouted on the field. I mean, if Arsene Wenger was standing on the touchline and shouting instructions to his on-field players, I mean, like Arsenal are really playing bad on those occasions.
Exactly. I think that was very beautifully summarized by Orko when he said it's French art mixed with German grit. And actually, when you mentioned about the fact that Wenger rarely used to shout, I think it also is a reflection on the kind of personality that Wenger was. He used to be called Le Professeur, which means the professor.
You're right.
In French, and he actually had that kind of a personality, which also I think got reflected in the way he dressed and the way he carried himself in public and also in team meetings. So very interesting. Actually, one of the go on.
It was
go on.
the British media who gave this nickname to him, and this was so popular among even his players. I mean,
Right.
as you will be saying, like the way he used the team meetings and discussions in letting his players come up with ideas during a match, even
Exactly.
during a match.
Exactly. So he really was very democratic in his style. Like as one of the ex Arsenal players mentioned in an interview with BBC, that many managers like to hear the sound of their own voice. Normally in like halftime meetings or end of the game meetings, you will see managers being very vocal, shouting at players, trying to send their
Motivate
message
them.
across or motivate them in a certain manner. And that's not wrong. I'm not saying that's wrong. That's definitely their style. But Wenger's personality was very different. He used to allow the players to uh, sort of shout at each other, fight with each other, let their frustrations out on each other, and then sort of come to a conclusion by themselves, which allowed them to be more creative and more
Independent.
independent, exactly, with the decision
Right.
making. So that was really his style.
And also the fact that Arsene Wenger had a great philosophy. The In case you see, there was a very strong criticism against Arsene Wenger, and it was stated that Arsene Wenger somehow failed to stop his players from joining the rival clubs. But Arsene Wenger, as we all know, is a man of very high dignity, and he never mixed football with politics, which I feel football with club politics or anything of that sort. So, in case you can just say something about that.
Yeah, so I think Arsene Wenger in general was not a jealous type of a character, if I can put it very simply. So he never really bothered too much about players leaving the club and going to other clubs, and that is actually one of the major criticisms of Wenger as well during his 20-year tenure at Arsenal. A lot of very famous Arsenal fans, including the British journalist Piers Morgan, are very critical of Arsene Wenger for failing to actually hold on to some of the players that were formed at the academy. But then that was his style, that was his philosophy of football. One interesting fact that I would like to mention here is that one of the players that Arsene Wenger signed very initially when he moved to Arsenal in 1996 was Nicolas Anelka, who was the French striker at that time, and he also played in the 1998 World Cup. But after the 98-9 season, I believe Nicolas Anelka left the club. He wanted to join Real Madrid, and in fact, towards the end of his tenure, he had a bit of a tough relationship with Arsene Wenger. I think they fell out in some way. And when he left, Arsene Wenger used the money obtained from selling Nicolas Anelka not to buy a new player, but rather invested that in expanding the Arsenal academy, because that was really his philosophy. He wanted to create talent and not necessarily buy talent, which is why a little bit like Ajax from the 1970s, Arsenal really became sort of the birthplace for many talented footballers. And we can see that in the latter half of Arsene Wenger's managerial career, most of his team members were young players below the age of 25 who had pretty much been handpicked from the Arsenal academy.
Yeah, and the impact, that's what we look at, that's what matters at the end of the day, the amount of impact that you create on the footballing world. And like you said, in the Ajax of 1970s and even today, like these players are still ruling the world of football, like Sergio Gnabry, the German
Right.
international, who is playing like, I mean, he's on the best form of his life, and
Right.
he's an Arsenal product. It's
Exactly.
amusing, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, just as I was mentioning before, like Arsene Wenger really brought an international flavor to the English Premier League. I think what he also did was he brought a lot of professionalism into the English football culture, and particularly into the Arsenal club culture. So, two of the biggest contributions that he made in this regard were to try and standardize the diet of players, focus on fitness, much as in the game of cricket we have seen Virat Kohli recently has introduced a revolution in Indian cricket by making fitness a very important criteria.
Right.
Arsene Wenger had done a
Yardstick.
similar thing. Yeah, a very important yardstick, exactly. So Arsene Wenger had done a similar thing for Arsenal when he first became the manager in the late 90s. In fact, he made pasta and I think grilled chicken or boiled chicken as mandatory diet on pre-match days. And there was also a very strong drinking culture within the Arsenal Football Club. He tried to get rid of that drinking culture as well, because that affected players' performance and players' recovery after a game. In a way, I mean, you can think of these things as very strong examples of professionalism. And he was a very thorough professional, which actually allowed Arsenal to graduate from being a mid-table uh, side to one of the, I mean, you can call them one of the top sides in Europe, at least at
Powerhouses.
a particular point in time, one of the powerhouses. Yeah.
Right.
So I want to narrate one of the incidents, which this is one of our childhood incidents. So as we all know, I think for me and for Sushreyo, both of us, I think both of our footballism is somehow etched in that rivalry between Manchester United and Arsenal. We grew up actually watching those rivalry. But one of the incidents that was a very ugly side of the rivalry happened in October 2004, when Arsenal actually was defeated by Manchester United in their home turf, and this actually ended Arsenal's 49 matches winning unbeaten streak. And so there was a very ugly spat between the players in the dressing room, and there was a pizza which was thrown at Sir Alex Ferguson, which is still known as the Pizzagate incidents. I guess
Right.
Right.
all of you
Yeah.
would be knowing that. And Sir Alex Ferguson later said that this somehow broke down their relationship, their friendship for almost 5 years. So they were not in talking terms, or not even in communicating terms. And one more interesting fact is, last year or probably early this year, there was an interview, there was a talk show where Fabregas actually appeared. It was an English talk show, and as per the English media's investigation, they they actually thought Fabregas was the one who threw it, and Fabregas actually
Right.
admitted laughingly that he was the one who threw the pizza.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Opening the box of you know can of secrets after so many years.
So this was completely hilarious. But on a this was on a very light note. But I would now ask ask
Right. So
both of you guys. So in case you can share about some of the excellent matches or memories related to him.
yeah, one of the funny memories that we have of Arsenal and Arsene Wenger is during his early days at Arsenal, when they were mostly English players, and along with him, when he came from Monaco to, I mean, after break from Monaco, he was finally appointed as the Arsenal coach. Arsene Who, that famous quote that from the Daily Telegraph.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, so in one of the preseason matches, Arsenal won in Austria, and he gave his players a break, to enjoy the night out. So, and the squad was in such disarray when he took over that the English guys went to pub for drinks, and the French guys went to smoking pubs for coffee and smoke. So he's regretted afterwards that the squad was in such disarray, and how could they win the league that year? And then he gradually molded the team according to his needs and the standards that he sets, and he signed players that suited much more of his style. So from the days of Tony Adams, winning the Premier League with Arsene Wenger, and then to the days of uh, Thierry Henry, the Arsenal legend. Over to
Yeah.
you now.
So I mean,
Speak your hearts
uh,
out.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, lot of great memories there. So I think the incident that you just mentioned happened very early in his managerial career, and uh, when he had brought that French Revolution really into English football by bringing a lot of French players. Arsenal was primarily made of English and French players, and in fact there was a time under Arsene Wenger when it was primarily a French dominated team. So I'd actually mentioned this a lot of times, that just like it is very commonly mentioned that the Spanish team benefited from the fact that a lot of the players happened to be playing for Barcelona together. Similarly, Germany were also benefited by the fact that a lot of their players played for Bayern Munich. I think the success of France in 1998 and 2000 in the Euro Cup, when they were really the top side in Europe and one of the best sides in the world even, I think a lot of it can be attributed to the fact that many of their top players, their first team players, used to play together under the same club and under the same manager, except for their top player, of course, Zinedine Zidane. So I think that had a certain role to play in France's success in like the turn of the millennium. Yeah, I mean, so when Arsene Wenger joined Arsenal, he was really a rather unknown face, because previously he had managed uh, Monaco in France with some amount of success in the French league. But then for a couple of years, he was the coach of a Japanese football club in the Japanese league called Nagoya Grampus, and he joined Arsenal directly from the Japanese league. So at that time, he was a rather unknown face, and it is also believed that, I think, I'm not sure about this 100%, but I read about this in an article that when Arsenal joined, or rather Arsene Wenger joined Arsenal in 1996, uh, the great Dutch manager Johan Cruyff was also among the contenders to take over at Arsenal. So many of the Arsenal fans, I would say, probably rooted for Johan Cruyff, him being such a big name. So when Arsene Wenger joined the club, a lot of people were disappointed. Even a lot of players within the club seemed to be disappointed because they didn't know who he was. And uh, early on, he was not very well received because he didn't really have that typical manager's flair. He was a thorough gentleman. He never used to impose himself on his players, so it took a little bit of time for players to gel well with his style of coaching. But then once they realized what this guy meant, and what his footballing philosophy was, I think it started a 20-year long love affair, which has changed Arsenal football forever.
So I think now it's time to discuss we'll discuss the whole process of the transition from being appointed as the manager of Arsenal ahead of the likes of somebody as great as Johan Cruyff, and then eventually a step-by-step process of building a team with a lot of characters, with a lot of potentials, young players, some small stars, or probably some budding stars, building, taking everybody under the same roof, and eventually being the invincibles. So how do you see this fact, this whole transition, this whole journey?
Yeah, so this was indeed a very memorable journey that started right from the time in which he joined the club. So when Arsene Wenger joined the club, there were some very well-established club legends like Tony Adams, David Seaman, and Ian Wright. Some of them were kind of reaching the end of their careers, like Tony Adams was on the verge of retirement. Even Ian Wright had enjoyed a very long and successful season, a successful career with Arsenal, ending up as Arsenal's highest goal scorer at that point in time. Um, when he first came over, he brought along with him a lot of players that he had either managed during his time in France, or had seen sort of develop under his wings at Monaco and previously at Nancy. So immediately alongside him uh, came the likes of Patrick Vieira, who really, in my opinion, was uh, the, the the single most important figure in that club. I don't think the importance of Patrick Vieira is quite appreciated as much as we appreciate Thierry Henry or Dennis Bergkamp. But I think Patrick Vieira's presence was probably the single biggest influence in Arsenal being the team that they would go on to be later on. Along with
Yeah,
Patrick Vieira,
yeah.
I think,
Just to
yeah,
interrupt you, uh, Patrick Vieira was probably the backbone at one point of time. I mean, without the sheer valor in midfield, that kind of tackling intensity. I mean, he revolutionized central defensive midfielder role to some extent with that. I mean, he was tall, he was well built,
and
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 yeah,
just to add to what Orko is saying, I think he was one of the pioneers of that position, because before that, this CDM position now we see in football, it's so important position. All the clubs are spending so much money to find the proper CDM, and but
exactly.
20 years before, 20 years ago, there the football was not this not the same. So CDM
Right.
position was something, as you rightly said, it was revolutionized by Patrick Vieira, because we
Right.
It
saw
was
Exactly.
him.
just much more than just I mean, uh, central midfield position. It was like, it was that protection that the wingers wanted, that the other midfielders wanted
Yeah.
during the game, so that they could
And
have the freedom of playing the with the flair that they can on such
yeah.
occasions if they have someone at the back. I
And
mean,
really a midfielder who's equally strong in attacking and defensive situations. That is actually the central tenet of total football. And in fact, in modern day football, if you see, that is one of the sort of the major things that every manager looks for, is to have players in the forward line who can fall back consistently, or players in the back line who can go up and attack. I think a lot of the teams are moving towards a very universal style of football, and
yeah,
Patrick
and
Vieira in many ways was way ahead of his
and
time.
and we see the Kantes, the probably the Hendersons, or probably somebody like Schweinsteiger, or
Yeah,
there are so many players in that position now. But before that, this position was not a very seriously taken position, because normally
right,
we used to have mostly attacking midfielder, or
right,
balanced midfielder.
and an
exactly, exactly.
amazing fact, shows that after Patrick Vieira's move to Man City at the end, to Juventus and then back to Man City towards the end of his career,
Mhm.
Arsenal never found that grit in midfield anymore. They got
Exactly.
midfielders like Matthew Flamini and
Mhm.
Alexander Song, who later moved on to Barcelona.
Barcelona, yeah,
Right, but they didn't get that grit in midfield anymore, and that was
exactly.
probably a reason of downfall, as many Arsenal fans like you would say.
Right, right. I mean, we have got fantastic forwards after Thierry Henry. We have got the likes of Robin van Persie and Alexis Sanchez, and right now even Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is doing great. But um, to find a player like you, it's very hard to find a replacement for someone like Patrick Vieira.
And Arsenal also had decent goalkeepers. I have to say, because goalkeepers had always been very decent in Arsenal team. They always
Right.
had their couple of
Well, except for a while though. I mean, except for the time
Right.
in which
yeah yeah
Exactly.
David Seaman left, and before Jens Lehmann joined, I think that there was a
the
small while that we struggled with the goalkeeping position. But yeah, apart from that, I think we have been very blessed.
yes yeah. So
So
continuing to that, yeah.
yeah, so another player he brought along in his initial years. You guys must remember the guy who scored the last goal for France in the '98 World Cup final, Emmanuel Petit, blonde guy with a
Right.
ponytail.
Yeah,
Yeah. So he was another player that he brought along to Arsenal initially, and then
and also a
in
short
order
fact,
to
a very
yeah
short fact I just want to put on. Even Arsene
yeah
Wenger's childhood name was Petit. I guess Petit in French means tall, and he is 6 feet 2
yeah
inches
yeah
tall. So even in his
right
childhood, this is a very funny coincidence.
yeah. So and yeah, another player who was a very underrated Arsenal star in the late '90s was Mark Overmars from the Netherlands, and he also bought Mark Overmars in order to bolster his style of play, which would be more sort of attack minded and more
Based down the
focused
wings.
on, yeah, based on the wings, and more kind of aggressive, requiring fast players and good movers and good passers of the ball. So Mark Overmars was a very important addition to the Arsenal team in the late '90s, and of course his understanding with Dennis Bergkamp, who was the chief striker of Arsenal at that time really helped. Dennis Bergkamp, of course, was an Arsenal player since a year before Wenger joined, so he didn't really um, uh, have to play a role in acquiring Dennis Bergkamp services into Arsenal. So yeah, these were the major players that he bought initially, and they formed the initial backbone of the team that won the English Premier League and the FA Cup double in 1997-98 season, which was his first major success. And part of that team was established legends like Ian Wright, who formed the attacking lineup along with Dennis Bergkamp, as well as Tony
Kanu, I
Adams
guess.
Tony Adams. I think Kanu joined a little bit later.
Alright.
So basically, Nicolas Anelka was also part of the team. He also bought Nicolas Anelka a little bit later. I think in his second year as a manager. And Nicolas Anelka was formed that striking trio along with Dennis Bergkamp and Ian Wright in that
Right.
phase of his managerial career. But
Nicolas Anelka, fun fact that
yeah,
he was before Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He was
right.
the player who has the highest accumulated sum or transfer fees because he went on transfer probably every season,
Every season,
and he
yeah, he was like moving around
he, he
all
even
his
came
career. Yeah,
to India to play in the ISL with
right,
Mumbai, I
right.
guess.
And
Yeah,
apart from United, I think he has played for most of the big clubs in England.
right. Exactly,
Right. And one
exactly.
fun fact about Dennis Bergkamp was that he had fear of flights. He couldn't
Yep,
fly, and that's why he used to always take a train to travel or
right.
bus to travel. And hence,
So
in European nights, he was mostly unavailable on. I mean, if Arsenal was playing in countries far away.
yeah, and that actually affected Arsenal a lot, especially in the 98-99 season when Ian Wright had retired. It really
Right.
left them with only Anelka as the only uh, only striking option
Option.
in the away Champions League games. So I think that is primarily what prompted him to strike to sign Nwankwo Kanu mid-season in the winter transfer window. Nwankwo Kanu, of course, was a striker from Nigeria, a very famous striker, and again one of the, I would say, underrated Arsenal stars of that point in time. And his addition to the side was a very major addition because Arsenal, came back from a very unstable position in the 98-99 season to pose a serious challenge to Manchester United, and in fact they ended up very close second to Man United in that season.
Right.
And then after that season, when Nicolas Anelka left for Real Madrid, Arsenal had to sign a few replacements, and so they signed two people at the end of that season. One of them was an established star of world football, the winner of the Golden Boot from France '98, Davor Šuker of Croatia, and the other one was a relatively unknown face at that point in time. He was part of the World Cup winning French team in 1998, but not a regular starter. His name, of course, would later go on to be very famous in English Premier League history. And of course, I'm talking about Thierry Henry. So Thierry Henry's story with Arsenal is actually uh, uh, a very significant story behind Arsenal's success story in under Arsene Wenger. He used to play as a winger initially in his days at as as a young player at Monaco, and later on when he went to Juventus. And when
Juventus.
Arsenal bought him from Juventus, he was actually going through a very low point in his career. He had, the previous season he was mostly injured, and he didn't get a lot of games under his belt. So when Arsenal acquired the services of Thierry Henry, one of the things that they did was they made him an out-and-out forward and paired him with Dennis Bergkamp for that particular season. Uh, and that really became the trigger point in Thierry Henry's career. It made him play in a completely different way. Yes, many would still argue that even as a forward, he would prefer to go to operate a little bit from the wings, and he would play almost like a winger. but that style of play was really I would say the arrowhead of Arsenal's strike force uh, under Arsene Wenger.
But
So
I think Thierry Henry also brought a bit of versatility to we were used to seeing that typical forward genre of players, but suddenly we
yeah,
saw Thierry Henry who also prefers running from the flanks or uh, loves the space in the flanks. So I think that
right,
He
added a lot
he
of
also
versatility.
had this knack of dropping in between the defensive and the midfield line to
yeah,
collect balls from the midfield, and then those long range curlers into the far corner. Those were beauties. That moment we probably everyone. I mean, whether it is a Manchester United fan or Chelsea, whoever you would support, you can't deny the beauty of those goals.
And
right.
he's one of those rare players who played in England and managed to dribble past so many players with that ease. Not many players who played in England managed to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Tackling.
a very common saying about any good dribbler that would they be able to do it on a wet night in Stoke City. But Thierry Henry did that so many times in his career that you just can't deny his impact on English football at that point in time. And as you mentioned, like he's universally loved. I mean, I have so many friends and I've met so many people who support different clubs in English football, but all of them are pretty much united in their opinion about Thierry Henry. He was just, he's just like one of those players like Steven Gerrard or
It's
Ryan Giggs.
phenomenal.
He's just universally loved, and not just a phenomenon. He was just, he was universally loved and respected by across
And
football clubs.
and obviously we have to mention the reception he got when he rejoined Arsenal.
Exactly. I
That
was
was
just
also
thinking
Right,
special,
of that.
and his goal, that celebration,
right,
every
right.
Yeah,
football
it
fan
was against
remember.
Sunderland, right?
Uh,
I don't,
Sunderland.
I don't clearly remember the opponent, but I do
It
remember
it
the
wa-
goal.
it
He
was
came in
probably
as
a
a substitute.
equalizer, right?
Yeah, it was an equalizer, and no, I think it was a winner, if I'm not mistaken.
and one more thing,
Uh,
the day the
and
news came
he
out,
come in as a sub. Yeah,
the
yeah.
day the news came out that he's rejoining Arsenal, I still remember your social media post which said the king is back. So
Yes.
so that is something I clearly remember till date.
Yeah,
But I
yeah. I mean,
still
he was
prefer, the memories that we had in Highbury. I mean, Highbury
right.
was such a close ground, and probably as an Arsenal fan, you would also support this view. I mean, the change of stadium didn't probably suit Arsenal at the end of the day.
It probably did not, but you understand, you sort of see the need behind it because Arsenal were no longer, just a famous English club. They were sort of a universally supported team, and they required better stadiums, better infrastructure, more capacity. Um, just better space for the media, things like that, and Emirates Stadium really offered them that.
Yeah,
So you can see that financially or technically there was a need for that. But yeah, I mean, if you are sort of a
and
traditional supporter of
Arsenal,
Arsenal, you
and
you would
also
probably understand that, yeah, it didn't suit Arsenal the way we expected it would.
exactly, and they had to curb the transfer I mean the transfer budget most of the time just to finance the stadium, and Arsene Wenger had a lot of hand in stabilizing the whole economy of the club. At
Right,
one point of time, I guess Arsenal was the only club in England who were having a profit out of the whole
right.
business of football.
Right. I mean, I think he understood the importance of that. I mean, the
Sustenance.
whole idea of squad building, and not just uh, squad building is not just about acquiring players, but it's also about building the image of the club, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely, absolutely. So
you
now,
can't do it without yeah,
true, true that, absolutely. So how lovely are these memories? These are all our childhood memories, and it's lovely that we are reliving those days tonight. So and that is what this whole podcast is all about. So one more fact is, since Arsenal changed their stadium, I think somehow their consistency in the game reduced, And this was not only because of the change of stadium, because that is hardly a factor, because but I think there must be other factors also that actually led to the downfall of Arsenal team. I won't say downfall. Downfall is too harsh a word, but somehow Arsenal team was not that consistent after 2005 or 6. So would you like to say elaborate about that?
Yeah, I mean, of course. Just a while back, we were discussing about how the stadium change didn't suit Arsenal. I don't completely subscribe to that view because I don't feel that the stadium change itself was that big an effect. But there was a lot happening around that particular incident uh, that I think probably affected Arsenal's immediate fate. Uh, so, I mean, as Orko just mentioned, that because of the financial aspect associated with the change of stadium and building a new stadium, Arsenal had to were like sort of restricted
Became a
in terms of
selling club.
the spending. Right, they
Yeah,
become a
they
selling.
became a selling
Their
club.
transfer budget was, yeah, the transfer budget was highly
Slashed.
restricted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the team uh, that won the trip or won the uh, uh, became the Invincibles team in 2003-4 was actually built over time. If you see Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, Freddie Ljungberg, Robert Pires, all of them had been part of Arsenal. Even in the defense line, if you see Ashley Cole, Sol Campbell, all these guys, they had been built, or they had been sort of inducted into the system for 4, 5, 6 years, in some cases even more. Uh, and then around the time, I think the change of stadium happened in the 2006 season. All of these players had pretty much reached the end of their peak. They were pretty much
Or
past their prime,
transferred.
uh,
Some were
or
transferred too,
transferred.
right?
I think. Right. I mean, one of the
Ashley
major
Cole.
incidents, of course, we would all agree was, yeah, Ashley Cole's transfer to Chelsea,
Chelsea.
right? I think he got
Right.
transferred to Chelsea initially, right? So then Thierry Henry's to Barcelona was another major blow, I would say. Uh, I mean, you can understand Thierry Henry's ambitions, that he wanted a player of his stature wanted to win the Champions League, which he also did. And I think the loss in the 2005-6 final was actually, uh, although I considered that to be one of the high points in my memory as an Arsenal supporter, the 2005-6 Champions League journey. But it also happened to be a big blow because for a lot of players like Henry and Patrick Vieira, it kind of put an end to their hopes of winning Champions League with their Arsenal team, and they thought of moving their careers forward and joining other teams where they had a better chance. If Arsenal had won that particular game against Barcelona, maybe things could have been different. Maybe
Oh,
Henry would have stayed back. Maybe we could have attracted some more players from top players from other leagues to replace some of the aging players, and things. The story might well have been very different.
I
Uh,
can feel that
then
these are things coming out of your straight from your heart. I mean, these are things
exactly.
Arsenal supporters would never say in front of, the banters, during banters with especially the Manchester United supporters.
Right. I mean, it's a big a point of regret. I think that the fact
What
that
ifs?
we couldn't win that game. I mean, there was an early red card
Yeah.
to the goalkeeper against Lehmann,
So,
so we were reduced to 10
right.
men. We still put up a very good fight against a top Barcelona team at that point in time. We in fact scored the first goal, but we
Sol
couldn't hold
Campbell.
on, and we ended up, yeah, Sol Campbell with the header, and then we couldn't hold on, and we lost that game. So maybe, and we don't know how things could have turned out, but maybe things could have been different if we had won that. So yeah, that happened, and also the fact that uh, another thing which we, I think, don't often talk about was the fact that around the same time as the stadium shift happened, uh, a lot of money started to be poured into English Premier League from sort of external sources, like Roman Abramovich became the owner of Chelsea, and immediately what happened was he used all that money into really, prioritizing the transfer budget as one of the key building blocks of his of the new Chelsea revolution that we all know about.
And
So
also,
for a
also
lot
the
of the
fact,
players, yeah,
just to interrupt, also the fact oil money also started finding their place in the sterling pound industry.
right, exactly. So what that did is completely change the transfer market dynamics of that point in time. So a lot of the players from different clubs, when they had an option, they would rather move to a club which could pay them more money than to move to Arsenal. So Arsenal kind of fell behind in that transfer race
Exactly. This
as
is
compared to many other clubs.
one of
Yeah,
the things about Arsene Wenger, that he would never spend one extra penny on a player that he felt was costing at some, I mean, some sum of money. And
right,
he was like, I would only pay what a player deserves to be paid. And that is why it was an amazing transfer sum that was offered to Liverpool at one point of time, that they paid his
right.
50 million was probably his release clause, that the clause that
Hmm.
the players have in their contracts, to if that
Yeah,
amount of money is paid, and the player would immediately be released from the ongoing contract at the existing club. And they paid
yeah,
one
yeah,
pound extra. I mean, like, that was a stunning show of arrogance on his part, as some might say.
yeah,
And Suarez
yeah.
was a superstar at that time, and had he been transferred to Arsenal, that would have been another story.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean these were major factors, and that's actually one of the reasons why Arsenal were not able to hold on to many of their homegrown talents. I mean, we all know about what happened to Cesc Fabregas and Samir Nasri, Gael Clichy,
Right.
Kolo Toure. All of these guys, they really started their career from Arsenal, and
And
then
most
they
importantly,
went
Van
on to,
Persie.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I'll definitely
Who
come
can
to that
forget
story.
him?
I think as an Arsenal supporter, talking to a Manchester United fan, that is one of the biggest sort of points of regret, or
Is it?
the
I thought I
biggest complaints that I have. Yeah.
is it Sushreyo? Because I guess the one of the biggest regrets you might be having is Arsene Wenger scouting Ronaldo first, but Sir
Oh
Alex
well,
Ferguson
yeah.
But
snapped him
I
off.
mean,
it is often
I
said
mean,
Van Persie is the second best thing that happened to United from Arsenal. You want to know what is
What
the
was the
right.
first?
first?
The first one is the
Ronaldo was
8-2,
the first.
8-2 defeat.
Oh, 8-2. Okay. I thought you would say Ronaldo was the first. Okay. Yeah. Well,
Okay,
I know we are
Sushreyo.
getting into a little bit of football banter, and
No, no,
which is something I'm used
one
to be
more.
honest, as an Arsenal fan.
Yeah,
And
that's my question. That's my question. That
yeah.
how does it feel being an Arsenal fan? I mean, winning eight trophies. I mean, trophyless seasons, and then finally having two FA Cups on your bag. I mean, how does it feel being an Arsenal supporter?
And also being the most successful English club when it comes to FA Cup.
Yeah, well, when I'm going through a tough situation in life, and when someone asks me, I'm just saying this on a lighter note. When I'm going through any tough situation in life, when someone asks me, "Are you okay?" or like, "How are you feeling?" I say, "Trust me, I'm an Arsenal fan. I've seen worse." So
Exactly. That was one of the
so
memes
yeah,
doing rounds. Yeah.
exactly. I mean
But
that's for some it's a meme. For me, it's the reality of my life.
Life,
But yeah, I
right.
mean it's I guess it's fine. I mean you on a serious note, I mean you understand some of these things. You do get frustrated because as a fan, of course, you always want your team to win. But I mean, when I interact with a lot of the people from today's generation, like people from my family, my cousins or my nephews or whatever, and when they talk to me, they're like they can't understand why I'm an Arsenal fan because they've never seen that era of Arsenal. But the only thing I say to them is that just because your team is not playing as well as it used to doesn't mean that you stop supporting them. You support them through thick and thin. That is what being a supporter is all about. I mean, even if Arsenal is relegated, I would still continue supporting them. So yeah,
absolutely,
that's how it
that's
works.
the spirit
Lovely,
because
lovely.
nowadays a lot of kids have started asking me, why do you support Manchester United? So
Right,
so I could
right. I mean,
understand the
they
pain.
they have definitely no idea of the glory days that we have seen
Yes,
growing up,
when
United and Arsenal.
English football used to be red and not blue.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so now coming on to the farewell part. Suddenly, after so many seasons, Arsene Wenger decided to call it a day, and then there was a huge media. There was a storm in the media. There was a storm in the social media. Everybody was talking, and everybody came to the same conclusion that it's a chapter getting over in English football. So how did you react to his when he decided to step down?
I will be very honest about this. I think it probably happened maybe 1 or 2 seasons too late. We kind of saw it coming, and I'm not meaning this out of any disrespect for Wenger. I have the utmost respect and regard for what he did as a manager and what he did to the club. But uh, we have seen this before in sports, in other sports as well. That maybe for some sports persons or for some managers, they probably sort of uh, keep playing or keep managing beyond their shelf life. I think that's something that happened to Arsenal after a point in time. I think after maybe around the time in which he couldn't hold on to Sanchez's services anymore. I think from around that time, you could kind of see that Arsene Wenger's days at Arsenal were over, and I mean, we were pretty much
Only,
prepared
only
that
one thing I can say, that dialogue from Dark Knight, that you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
wow, that's such a wonderful, wonderful an
Yeah,
apt,
summing it
I
up.
would say, yeah, apt way to sum it up. Uh, in my book, though, he's never become a villain. I think he's always going to be a hero, and he is
Yeah,
indeed a major
it
hero
was tainted. His image was tainted at the end part of it, and
in a way.
everything
Yeah, in
became
a way, I think
so
he just left he just left a bad taste in the mouth for many of the fans. Uh,
exactly.
but I mean, it's okay. I mean, I think as someone who has done so much for the club, he probably, I think just looking at it from another point of view, probably deserved that those extra 2 3 years just as an attempt to try and redeem himself and maybe try and go out on a high. It is unfortunate that it didn't happen, but it would have been wonderful if he had won one of those seasons. I mean,
Exactly.
to be honest or to be fair to him, he did come close on a few occasions. And one of the things that I must mention here, and I don't think we have gone through this in this discussion till now, is that right from his first Premier League win in 97-98 up to the 2000, uh, I believe the 2014-15 season. Um, uh, Maybe I'm wrong by one season here and there. Continuously, Arsenal ended up in among the top four teams, and they qualified for the Champions League. I think that is unprecedented.
Just to add,
No other team. Yeah.
exactly. Just to add to this, and he never finished below Tottenham. I mean, even the
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
season with with the brilliance of Harry Kane and Dele Alli, they managed
Right.
to be on over Arsenal in the ratings for quite some period. I mean, the standings of
Right.
EPL, but eventually he did manage to overtake them, and that's the
Right.
thing, Just one last question.
For a lot of traditional Arsenal fans, that might be a big thing. Personally,
Exactly.
when I used to when I started watching football, Tottenham were really not a competition for Arsenal. So
Yeah.
for me, the Arsenal-Tottenham rivalry was never really that
And
big
the
in my eyes.
North London
Are they still
rivalry,
one?
right?
Are they still
Yeah,
one?
right.
Right.
Are they still?
Are they still one?
You mean a rival?
Yeah.
You mean a rival?
Yeah, I mean a rival.
Oh, right now, of course. Right now, of course. Right now, Tottenham is a better team than Arsenal, to put it very simply. And we all know why that
That's
happened.
something to hear
Because-
from a Gunner fan.
Right. I mean, I'm a Gunner fan, but I'm also honest. So yeah.
Yeah.
That you are definitely. And one last question: do you think Arsene Wenger would return to management anytime in the future? I personally would love to see him.
And the fact is, he
Maybe,
just
I mean, I don't know about that. Maybe I think given his age, I think maybe he won't be returning to any top flight football or any major European league or something. But he still has so much of knowledge, so much of experience, and such a lot to offer. So maybe in some capacity, he might still be involved in some management.
Right now, he's
at an
the
academy level.
FIFA advisor at for the growth of African football.
Right.
So he's in that heading that chair in that committee.
And also,
that's a very
also some of the European newspapers reported that he was offered the Barcelona job, and which he just took minutes to reject that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see him at this age, getting back to top flight football. But I think, his involvement with growing football in Africa. I think he has such a big role to play in shaping the future of young footballers that I think he still has a lot to offer in that capacity.
Absolutely. So how lovely are these words from a fanboy who has supported Gunners not for a year or two, but probably for two decades. So with this, we come to the end of this episode. But we are not going to end this without a fun event. So I would rather ask Sushreyo to just tell me a dream 11 of Arsenal team of his choice, or with preferably players he has watched.
Right. Okay. So that's a very interesting exercise. Let me just take a moment to plan out my formation. So I'm looking at it. Right. I'm looking at a typical 4-4-2 formation. I mean, I know that Wenger didn't always follow a 4-4-2 formation, but just for some standardization, I'm going with 4-4-2. So my goalkeeper would be Jens Lehmann. I mean, you may argue that there have been better goalkeepers to have played for Arsenal, but I think Jens Lehmann, being part of that Invincibles team, just has a special place in my heart. And I think, I personally used to be very fond of him as a goalkeeper. I think he was really a very strong
Jens Lehmann replaced Oliver Kahn in 2006 World Cup. So we can see how big a goalkeeper he is.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the top goalkeepers in Europe at that time. So my 4 defenders would be at the center. I will have Sol Campbell, the heartbeat of the Arsenal backline in that Invincible season. Along with him, I will have Kolo Toure. Kolo Toure, again, very interesting story. He didn't start off as a defender. He started off as a midfielder, more of an attacking player. But because of the lack of centre backs around that time when Sol Campbell's career was coming to an end and Arsenal were really struggling to find proper centre backs, Wenger converted him into a centre back, and he later on became one of the most sought after centre backs in European football. So yeah, that's his story. So he will be my second centre back. My left back would be Ashley Cole. Again, a very important member of the Invincibles team. And my right back, I would go with Hector Bellerin from the current squad. I think he's an excellent player who can combine attack with defense. One of the fastest players.
He has some pace. Some sizzling space down the right.
Right. So he'll be very instrumental in creating some of those counter attacks down the right flank. My 4 midfielders, I will go with 2 people just playing a little deep in the midfield. They would be Patrick Vieira and Cesc Fabregas. I think Cesc Fabregas being the chief playmaker of this side. And then on the 2 wings, I will probably go with and it's very hard to select here between. I'll give you 4 options, and I'll go with 2 out of these 4 options. The 4 options are Robert Pires, Freddie Ljungberg, Alexis Sanchez, who I'm considering for a wing position, and Mesut Ozil. So if I have to select any 2 from them, I would probably go with Mesut Ozil on the left and Robert Pires on the right. But I can equally replace any of them with any of the other names I just mentioned. And my two forwards would be Thierry Henry and uh, Robin van Persie. I mean, I really
Come
wanted to select Dennis
on.
Bergkamp there,
Come on.
but yeah,
That
I mean,
goal.
I
Newcastle.
I love that.
okay, so the reason why I am going with Robin van Persie is because I never saw the peak of Dennis Bergkamp. Uh, when I started watching Arsenal play, I think that was when Dennis Bergkamp was pretty much past his peak, and he was not a regular starter in all games. Like he used to be a partner for Thierry Henry, but then every now and then other people like Kanu or Wiltord would play. And he was definitely in the legacy of Arsenal football, his name would come right up at the top. And I have no doubt about the fact that he was actually, if you consider the career in entirety, he was a far greater striker than Robin van Persie. But just because of based on what I saw, and based on the fact that Van Persie almost single-handedly won Arsenal the season before he left for Man United, I think that was a major achievement. So although I'm not happy about the fact that he left Arsenal and joined Man United, I would still have him there because I think he also offers a slightly different option to Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry is more of a person who can create. He's more of a playmaking striker, whereas Robin van Persie is more of an out-and-out striker with a fantastic shot-making abilities. So and again, I mean, if you replace him with Dennis Bergkamp, I would definitely have no complaints about that. But that's just my choice for the first
Perfect.
11.
You stuck to the instructions. I mean, Mayuk told you that the players that you have seen playing.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Because the fact is there are some guys of 50s and 60s whom I often discuss football with. So whenever I ask them to make a dream 11, they come up with players' names. They are great, but I don't even know how good were they because I've never seen them watching. So anytime when I do this, I always put this condition that
Yeah.
with players whom you have seen.
Yeah. I mean, I have
So-
definitely seen some of the great matches of Dennis Bergkamp, but I would still say that the major part of Dennis Bergkamp's peak was sort of mid to late 90s, and I didn't watch a lot of football back then, so it would be fair for me to say that I watched more of Robin van Persie than I did of Dennis Bergkamp.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you so much
thank
for
you,
that.
Sushreyo.
And
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just want to end it with one of the beautiful quotes of Mr. Arsene Wenger. So Arsene Wenger was once quoted. He said, "A football team is like a beautiful woman. When you do not tell her, she forgets she's beautiful." So I think this perfectly sums up the style of play which he had opted and the style of play which he believed in, and that is how he built a legacy, which is which very few managers in the world even think of having. So having said that, thank you so much, Sushreyo, for joining us. Once again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I'm sure Orko, you want to end it?
Yeah, so that was a very, I mean, heart touching at times. And Shusha, I must say that you are the most gentlemanly reflection of, Arsene Wenger as an Arsenal fan. I mean, I expected more banter on Manchester.
Well, yeah, thank you guys. Thank you so much for calling me. The pleasure was all mine. I had a lot of fun reliving childhood memories and discussing about my favorite club and my favorite manager. Um, so yeah, I would love to have the opportunity to come back again in future
Definitely,
if
we are
that's possible.
looking forward to that. We are looking
Yeah,
forward to
and
that.
also to all the listeners of this podcast, all the citizens, I would definitely encourage you to watch this space for more exciting content. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And yeah, keep following football and keep loving the beautiful game.
And also, let me tell all of you that I and Sushreyo are in the process of starting a cricket podcast. So it will be coming sometime soon. So we both are working on that. So that would also all the cricket fans also can join us there.
Yeah. So just as Moyuk mentioned, we have already recorded the first episode and we are yet to release it. The cricket podcast is mostly going to be about reliving memories of teams that we have watched growing up, and important moments, important matches, or the legacy of certain cricketers or certain styles. Uh, and the format is going to be not very different from this particular podcast, but it's just going to be focused on cricket. And yeah, keep watching this space for more information on that podcast, which should be releasing soon.
Thanks, Sushreyo. Thanks, Mayuk.
Thank you so much, everyone.
And
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.